Good morning. Happy anniversary. I was in the church last night and saw all the seminarians there and kept thinking of those little paltry pictures out there in the hallway with only 6 at the very beginning. It's an amazing miracle what's happened in 25 years. And you think of the origins of IPF, let's go all the way back to the origins, like in God's mind maybe. And God is, God the Father's, hey, I'm going to need something in the 20th century to help priests pray better. And when I was sleeping, this word came to my mind. So he's doing a colloquy with St. Joseph and the Blessed Mother. And he says the word Scranton came to mind. And he says, what is that, And St. Joseph said, oh, that's like a town in Pennsylvania. It's kind of near Jersey. And the Blessed Mother said, oh, that's the East Coast, isn't it? Yeah. And she's like, Joseph, no, not the East Coast. And God the Father said, well, I got another word also. It was Omaha, Oklahoma. And Joseph's like, Omaha, Oklahoma. God the Father, I don't know where that exists, And Mary said, oh, that's what people on the East Coast say. They don't know where Omaha is. So Mary says, why don't we do this? Because Mary loves the hidden life. So she says, why don't we move Scranton to Omaha, Oklahoma, and start the institute there? And God the Father was like, are you nuts? And Joseph said, oh, it gets worse. A priest, a Jesuit, and a consecrated virgin walk into a bar. And it's like, God the Father's like, well, where is this going? Right? And Joseph's like, you'll see. And then, Mary's just there smiling because she's got everything in her heart. She's already got it all in the heart. And then Mary says, needs to be more hidden. God the Father's like, how can it be more hidden than that? It's got to be on a Jesuit campus. Diocesan priest on a Jesuit campus. That's pretty hidden. Pretty obscure. Mary said, it's getting better. It's getting better. And how about this? Joseph says, why don't we add a permanent deacon to the staff, right? And God the Father says, oh, that'll kill it. Just don't even go there. Incompetent boobs. What if we added more Scranton people? Would that help? Oh, yeah. Bring out another Scranton priest. And Mary's saying, how can we make it more obscure, more hidden? What if these priests incarnate in Omaha, Oklahoma, and start like a religious order that really doesn't have anyone living with them, but has members? Wow. Mary's like, that's really hidden. I like this. This is sounding more and more like Nazareth to me. And that's how the stupid thing started. Unbelievable. And there's even more obscurities. More Scranton people coming, right? All the way out to Omaha, Oklahoma. To do what? To learn how to pray as a priest with all this motley crew gathered around. And even if the guys don't learn how to pray at the end of the summer, they believe in God. Because only God could do this. At the end of the day, well, I don't know what was going on there, but boy, there's a God. This place is holding together. There's a God. And there's no ego. Like, I'm the only one at IPF with an ego. Like, Kathy has no ego at all. Rich and And Jim, no ego, no ego. I got an ego. And so I'm always thrusting myself forward, you know. And they're always saying, hide, Nazareth, St. Joseph, Mary, you know. So I said, at one point, you know, Kathy's done some great work. She has to come out of the shadows. So I dedicated my last book to her. I said, Kathy, I dedicated my last book to you, but I'm very sorry. It's not selling very well. And she just smiled. And then she said, thank you, Blessed Mother. And then she walked away. So you don't want to dedicate a book to someone who wants to stay hidden. They got a lot of power with that Nazareth stuff. He says there's no ego here. I went to Notre Dame recently, gave a lecture. I'm telling you this because I have an ego. And when the lecture was over, I went to the bar on campus. It's a Notre Dame bar, so get it, right? It's nice. So I'm sitting there, I'm having Jameson and ginger ale. 2 diocesan priests come in, and they see me, and they're coming over to me. Deacon Keating, and I'm saying, oh, this is going to be great. They're going to tell me how good my lecture was. Right? And so I sit down, boys, you know. And they say, oh, Deacon Keating, I got to tell you something. We were at IPF in 2006, 2007. And all I got to say is A-R-R-R. I said, what the hell about my lecture? I mean, IPF is like everywhere. It's like driving me crazy. The other one said, yeah, I still do the examen. It's like, big deal. What about my lecture? So the IPF is just like a big conspiracy to deflate my ego. But there they were. I mean, they were incredibly enthusiastic. And they were kind of like old guys, you know. And they were still doing ARRR. They're still doing the examen. And they were genuinely enthusiastic about what? What they had learned in Nazareth. What they had learned in the hiddenness of spiritual direction, vulnerable to the love of the Trinity. After all those years, implanted so deep. And they were doing this, right, in the ordinariness of their days in the rectory. They were staying in touch with that which is beyond them. And this is the whole point of the Institute for Priestly Formation, is to really see that interiority at its deepest level is a relationship. There is nothing about isolation in the interior. And as you go deeper and deeper into that relationship, humility and trust is born. Humility and trust is born. When I was at the Josephinum as a teacher, now Bishop Tom Olmsted was the rector, and he was leaving being the rector to go be Bishop of Wichita. And they had a big party like this for him, and they had a reception line. And I got on the reception line, there were like 3 theologians in front of me, and I was listening, I was eavesdropping. What's he saying to them, you know? And he was saying things like, oh, you great teacher. Bob, you're a great teacher, you know. Tom, your books are wonderful. I'm like, oh, what's he going to say to me? He's going to say cool stuff to me about me. That's what I really think, right? So I get to him. Tom, thanks. Jim, I said, here it comes. You know, footnote 25 in that journal article was stellar, you know. No, he didn't say that. Jim, thank you for being such a good father. Big ego. And my heart was, Are you kidding me? That's what my boss is telling me? What about my books? What about the articles that have changed Western civilization? As they lay obscurely in the library. I have to admit, I have gone to libraries and opened my book, and I have been the first one to crack the binding. It is very deflating. So now I go around cracking all the bindings, especially of theologians that I'm an enemy of, so I can tell Jesus I loved my enemy. Just crack the binding. So this guy thinks somebody read his book. Thank you for being a good father. And of course, the sadness is I was disappointed. So Bishop Olmsted, like right to the heart. Relationship, right? The egoist climbing for the achievement, to take it, to master it, to stand out. The great fear in the masculine ego, right? To disappear into relationship. To disappear. This is why a lot of guys are afraid of women. Because women, when you first meet a woman who you kind of like, you're always like a little hesitant. Wow, she's really pretty. Wow, I kind of like her. But then I'm getting close to her, and then I get afraid. I say, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid she's going to take. What's she going to take? And the woman is going to take, right? She's going to take your stupidity and a lot of other things. But we define ourselves by those things. We're called men. And what the woman wants to take, we have heretofore defined ourselves as, so we hold on to it tight. We think relationships, if we go into them, we're going to lose something. Not going to lose anything. We're going to get everything the heart is looking for. Where? In communion. In communion. What's the lie? Separate yourself. Distinguish yourself. Take, master, grasp. Because if you trust in the relationship, you may not get what you want. And this is the big masculine psyche conversion. Trust. I remember a while ago now that I went to the doctor. This was when we lived in another state outside of Oklahoma. And the doctor said, you're getting too fat. He says, what do you eat? I said, well, I eat stuff. What stuff? What are you eating? Cookies and stuff. And like candy, like cookies and candy and stuff like that. Well, you can't eat that. You can't eat cookies and candies and stuff like that. I said, well, what are you saying? You're going to die. You're too fat. High blood pressure, cholesterol, stop it. And then I just like broke out into a sweat. Like, what's a substitute then? What can I eat? Eat a pretzel. Are you kidding me? You're going to substitute double stuffed Oreos for a pretzel each night? He said, do you want to live? I said, my God, I guess I want to live. So I leave and I got to, give up all this stuff. Double stuffed Oreos, candy bars. I'm driving home and so why does Marianne buy that stuff anyway? So I said, what, you want to kill me? So what kind of wife is this? Yeah, it's her fault. So I got home and I was like, saw her and I was like, stop buying this stuff, man. You're killing me. She's like, whatever, you asked for it. Yeah, well, knock it off. I can't do it anymore. I could just buy a pretzel. It was a really, really difficult withdrawal. When I was sat with TV, I used to have the double stuffed Oreos with the 3 rows. And then, you just have a whole row. And that was restraint. because the whole box was right in front of you. I used to gauge how many cookies I'm going to eat by the size of the glass I took. Small glass, I was on that diet. Big glass, might go for the whole row. So that was my life up until then, Now I'm sitting there watching TV with a pretzel. So as an addict, I'm very aware, of what I was giving up. And so I said each day, hey, you're a good boy. You're doing a good job. And I literally knew when a month went by, all the cookie addicts in here will know what I mean. And I said, as I was at work, I said, hey, it's a month. I haven't had a cookie or a piece of candy in a month. Now the other addicts are noticing the next sentence that's coming. I deserve some candy. See? I went a whole month. So I get in my car, leave work, go on the way home, and I'm saying, no. Right? My good angel came. No. You're too fat, you're going to die. The good angels talk that way. It's like, you're too fat, you're going to die. Don't do it, Jim. Don't do it. Right? So I'm driving, saying, wow, this is a struggle, though, because I should celebrate. It would be unjust of me not to celebrate. So I said, and then I noticed I needed gas. I said, I better get gas. Right? And you know what gas stations are, right? They're just candy stores. Incidentally, they have pumps out front. But they're candy stores. That's all they are. So I pull into the gas station, right? I get out, pump my gas. I go in, open the doors. They're big double doors, right? And all the candy is laid out. Like showgirls. Welcome. All the candies are there, yelling at me, enticing me. And I'm strong. I'm doing, no, this is stupid. I'm more mature. So I put the 50 cents down for the gas, and I leave. And then I turn around. I say, I'll have one of those York peppermint patties. So I take one. I get in the car. I sit there. I just hold it for a minute. I look at it. Then I start opening. I said, no. So I pull the car around the back of the gas station. Just peeling it off. Absolute delight. Right? Feeling that dark, dark chocolate and that sweet, sugary inside. And I sit there after I consume it. Wow. Then I feel horrible. I see the wrappers. I got to hide these from Mary Ann. So I take the wrappers, I throw them in the garbage can, and I start driving home. And I get mad at Mary Ann. Why did she remember my anniversary? What kind of wife is she? She could have helped me with this. Get home, open the door, go through the living room, go through the dining room, hit the kitchen. When I hit the kitchen, the kids are at the table. In the middle of the table is a candle, a card, and a York peppermint patty. And the kids are like, you did it. And of course I'm lying. I did what? What could I possibly have done? Daddy, this is your anniversary. You went a whole month without candy. You did it. All the expletives deleted are now in my mind. What a jerk. And Mary Ann leans over and says, and it's fat-free. The worst candy bar I ever ate in my life. The absolute worst candy bar. Why? Because the worst thing a human can do is to take what was meant to be given. You might want to call that the primordial sadness. It's coming. trust. Wait. It's coming. Where? Within the relationship. Within the relationship, it's coming. Don't go outside on your own, out of the pain of isolation, grabbing, taking, controlling, manipulating. What are you looking for? It's coming. Trust. Patience. Stay in the relationship. That's the incarnation. The incarnation is God just saying, I'm coming so deep into you, into all the mystery that you are, to uphold you and love you. Even in the very places where you think I have abandoned you, I'm coming into sickness, into suffering, into death. There's absolutely no reason for you ever to believe that the relationship will not save you. Just don't go out of it and get afraid and take. Just don't lose your trust that the relationship is everything. We used to have Sunday, and Sunday used to be a big, big deal in the Catholic Church. And it was basically a big deal for doing nothing. But the culture has so shifted to activism, escapism, and the tyranny of novelty. Everything must be new. Everything must be ramped up. And so we dispensed with Sunday, which was the cocoon protecting communion, both in the Eucharist and then in the family after. And I remember as a little boy, every Sunday, my mother and father would have the same conversation. My dad would get up in the morning and he'd say, "What are we doing today?" And my mother would say, "You know what we're doing today? We're going to the 10:30. He would say, "Oh, what are we doing after that?" "You know what we're doing after that? We're going to Rose's." "Oh, crap. What are we doing at Rose's?" "You know what we're doing at Rose's? We're having ham." Shame. Every Sunday. The 10:30, Rose's, ham. Rose was my aunt. And we'd go there, and the little kids would run around, and the old guys with fat bellies who ate too much candy would be eating ham, drinking beer, sitting there all afternoon just eating, talking. That was Sunday. A pale reflection of heaven. So we're emphasizing the word pale. But that's what it is, right? Whenever you get together with your family, this is a word of encouragement. It's a pale reflection, right? Sin, of course, interrupts there. But it's what the human heart really does desire. The human heart is really desiring that connectedness as identity. A bestowed identity from communion, not a stolen one from activity. The identity is always deeper than the achievement and the activity, because the identity as communion can never be taken from us and even survives death. That's why we love to be with the ones we love. When I was a little boy, unexpectedly, my grandfather moved in with us from New York City. And he was a great-grandpa. And he came and lived with us, and I must have been in junior high or something, a little younger than that. And he slept in our living room on a pull-out couch for years. And I grew up thinking, oh, that's cool. But I can't imagine the sacrifice he made to have to do that. In his elderly years, he couldn't live alone. He was living alone in a little apartment in Manhattan. So he had to come in and sort of be cared for. But every night, in the years that he lived with us, I would eat dinner, and he'd be at my side. My father, my mother, we had six. I had 6 brothers and sisters. And every day after he ate, I'd jump up from the table and go to the sink, kitchen sink, before dishwashers. And I'd stand there like an acolyte at an altar. I'd stand at the kitchen sink. Because I knew that after my sister scraped all the plates and everything, all the dishes would come over here on the counter, and then he would come. No one else could wash the dishes. Just him. Because he knew how to do it right. And I'd wait there for him. And he would come in and he'd say, Jimmy, let's start. And he had a method. But everything's a blur. Except 2 things. His stories and his presence. Everything's a blur. But the stories and the presence. Sounds like Revelation, doesn't it? So Jesus is still here. We are still remembering the stories. I just wanted to be with him in the relationship. Ever deepening. Listening. Ever longing to be with him every day. And he introduced me to little things like apple jelly on toast. Didn't know what apple jelly was until he moved from Manhattan. He brought apple jelly with him. Whenever I see apple jelly now, I think of Grandpa. The stories and the presence. Because this is the incarnation at its deepest. He is with us. He is choosing us. He is self-revealing. Unto what? Unto the deepest of intimacy. For what reason? Unto the deepest of communion. Why? So that death can't steal it. Steal what? The bond, the love. When priests and seminarians pray, when they long to lead us, they first must suffer a killing of the ego so that the room and the space is made available at the sink. For the one whose presence bears the stories of life, the ego must move. And at the deepest level of our hearts, there must be hospitality for the one who bears the presence and the stories of life. When he gets that deep in you, you're saved. And when a priest experiences that so deep, and he preaches out of that communion, his people are saved. His people are healed by the words that come out of that communion. Not out of a book. Out of the communion. It's the words that come out of the communion that save the people and that save the priest. Do not spurn the ordinary, said Origen. Do not spurn the ordinary. For in the ordinary, the drama of our very identity is being gifted to us. Don't miss it by grasping and taking and controlling. Trust. Receive the gift. Suffer in patience at the sink. Wait for him. He's bringing presence and life. Thank you.